G'day YouTube, my name's Lance. Welcome to Bundy Bear's Shed. Well, the weather report, look, they're looking at about 15 to 26. Through the week we had, I think we were down to 6s. One morning, well 6s officially, a couple of mornings here we had 5.2 and a little bit of a mother-in-law's breath breeze coming through, and that made it feel like about 2 degrees. But out west, talking to friends in Kangaroo, and yeah, they were -2s and 3s and things like that. So even though it's chilly, it does the place a lot of good. Like I'd slash the paddock just before the cold snap, and that'll lay down nicely now, and it'll slow growth up for a little bit. The neighbours want me to go next door and slash their paddock where the horse is as well. But yeah, I've just had one of those bloody weeks. But anyway, that's okay. It's just been a busy one. A little video I put out before this stew was about my compressor blowing up. And what was happening was this little farm wall I was just going to do the water pump on, and I pulled it out and I couldn't leave it be, so I started on that. Then I looked at it and I thought, oh, what a bloody mess. Yeah, I need to tidy it up better than that. So I've needle scaled most of the tractor down now, and the exhaust broke off, like the exhaust elbow broke off, and it bolts on top of the manifold here. This is a petrol kerosene manifold for the Farmall 100, and this top snout here was all broken and welded, so you can see I've made a new one of those. That took quite some time. Yeah, just getting the bottom flange there, the right shape, right size, the hole in the right place, and all that. So that was Saturday's effort. But the main tractor, I've got the water pump fitted, and I've started cleaning up. As things do, they get out of hand a little bit, and where I was starting on just needle scaling it, I had the big compressor running in the corner here, and one of my retirement jobs was to shift the compressor outside onto a slab outside, and I just hadn't got around to it, you know, just gunner, didn't do anything. And but anyway, I was needle scaling. I had the Farmall 100 in the doorway over there, and I was needle scaling away and just getting all down into the front end and in the timing cover. And any of you that have painted a tractor in the past, you know that, oh, that shit gets in tight. But the needle scaler, look, it's a bloody good thing, you know, it's great. And so I'm needle scaling the entire tractor. Then I'll run over with a little 3-inch row lock and just sand, just a light sand where I need to, where it's a little bit rough, so we get a nice coat of paint on it. I have some 2-pack paint here for the tractor that I bought years ago. Now, I don't know how long I've had this tractor. It would have been in one of my stews, but look, 6 years or 7 years wouldn't be out of the question, I don't believe. It's been a fair while. It sat inside. When I first brought it home, Arrow was a little fella, and I have a photo of him out the front there because the front tyres were rotted off it, and we were putting new tyres on the front, and Arrow was there with the spanner bouncing up and helping me. So, and he was only probably 2 and he's 8, so probably 5 or 6 years anyway. So I bought that, and I bought some, back at the day I bought that, and I bought some other stuff for it. But anyway, while I was needle scaling in the front there, and you know, when you needle scale, you can't hear a bloody thing. And I just stopped for a moment, and I thought, shit, that compressor's making a funny noise. And I thought, I better run up and have a look. Something's not right. So I come up this side passage here, and I got halfway, and boom, she just blew the whole thing apart. And actually blew the cylinders off it. And when we go for a little walk later, I'll take you, I've got the main crankcase outside, and it was a 3-cylinder compressor, 42 litres a minute free air delivery, and yeah, just blew the thing apart. I could not believe it. And I put out a little video just as a thing of interest for you all, and Yeah, a few comments come. That'll teach you, not to change the oil and no oil in the compressor. Well, look, it had plenty of oil in it. It was up to the glass. It was something I did check. I could check that, but with it blowing up there, and like one of the cylinders landed probably a metre away on the ground. So, which is probably lucky it happened on the way up, because I had it there and I had to sort of lean across it to turn it on and turn it off. So it was probably fortunate that it buggered up right there and then before I got to it, and didn't work. So anyway, it's an Able brand compressor out of Brisbane, and it's 10 years old. I've had it for 10 years, and look, until you haven't got a compressor, you just don't know how much you use it. And I know when I come to the shed of a day, if I'm not filming, the first thing that goes on is that compressor. And so anyway, I thought, well, that's not good. Brian from Brian Blocks, that ain't good. That's his heading when things go bad. That ain't good. And well, that weren't good for me. So anyway, I thought, well, I'll pull the compressor off and have a look and see if I can find anything. And I couldn't see why it did it. And I thought, well, it's just it's broken a con rod, and that con rod's probably come down and taken the others out, I thought. And so anyway, I got onto Able Sales, and I went up and said to Jude, I said, oh, geez, I just hit myself. Bloody compressor blew up, and she's like, she reckons, I'll go up there and find you parked up, find you dead one day. And I thought, oh, well, way to go. But anyway, I jumped on the Able Sales website, and I said, well, we've got to buy a new compressor, so that'll be a few $1,000. And I had a look at trade tools and all that, and I went down the Able Sales website, and here they got that compressor, just the pump, just the 3-cylinder compressor there. And it said it fitted both electric and petrol diesel engines. My mate John Dudley, he has the same compressor with a diesel engine on it, and he doesn't use it day to day. He cranks that up when he wants to do some sandblasting and that, just to give him the extra flow. And anyway, it was $580, and I thought, wow, that's bloody good. And so I had a chat to him down there, and they said, yeah, we'll get one up to you, $580 plus 106 freight, I think it was. And that was on Tuesday. Then on Thursday, the compressor turned up. It was a bloody good service. You couldn't complain. And so I unloaded it with the forklift. The forklift clutch is playing up. Bastard, everything. Got new parts. Yeah, we're using my forklift for the rally, and the clutch is playing up. I've been in and adjusted it, and it seems okay at the moment, but I do have a new master cylinder, a new slave here to put on the forky. And anyway, I got the compressor out and I had a look, and I thought, yeah, that's bloody good. So I started bolting it on. And if you had an old Australian Clisby or the big good brands in the States, when you bolt the electric motor, it's a 10 horsepower, 3-phase motor, 415 volts. And when you bolt it on, and you bolt the compressor on, to line the belts up, it'd be nice to have a couple of brackets there with a couple of jacking bolts, so you can twist it one way or the other. But being of Chinese origin, you don't have any of that. That's too expensive to do all that stuff. And so the electric motor was bolted on. So I got the compressor and bolted it on loosely and lined the belt up. Well, put the belt on, and to try and line the pulleys up, I had a piece of angle iron clamped onto I started off with the big pulley, then I did it to the little pulley. I clamped the angle iron with a adjustable G clamp, an F clamp, onto that, and I could actually do an arc with the angle iron and come down next to the big pulley. And by coming against the big pulley, I knew, I had more, I could see any error easier. It was probably what I'm trying to say. So. And I had the belts on, and I ginned around with the belts on, because I thought, well, I'll have trouble getting the belts on later probably. So anyway, I spent about 2 hours getting this bloody thing on and lined it all up, and yep, bloody nearly got sore hands for shaking hands with myself for doing such a good job. Anyway, I'm sitting there on the chair. I thought, right, I'll just have a break for a minute, and I'm looking at it, and from one head to another, to the other, and a little T-piece, it had a copper line there. And I thought, yeah, I'm not sure what to do with that, because on the main tank there's a copper line that comes from the main tank to your shut-off switch, you know, your pressure cutout. And it was there, so and I thought, I wonder what this thing's all about. So, like an unloader valve. So I rang them up down there at Able Sales and had a chat, and they said, you've got a petrol motor, haven't you, or a diesel motor? I said, no, it's a 10-horse electric. Oh, shit, they said, you got the wrong compressor. You got the one with the unloader valves for the either petrol or the diesel engine. And I said, oh, fuck, you know, crikey, goodness. What do I do here? And they said, oh, well, look, we'll get you the right one up. Yeah, if you unbolt that one and do it up in the box and send it back. And I said, well, there might be a problem there because I've just wrecked the box getting it out. It was nailed together very well, but and I just got a bar in and folded the sides and buggered round. But I said, if you don't mind, when the new one comes, I'll try and lift it out with the forklift. You know, get down to the hard to get out bolts and lift it out and use that box. And I said, yeah, no worries. So off comes the compressor, and I just sat it on the. I dragged it out on the. When you see my front bench and the black toolboxes, when I set that up originally, I set that up. The reason it's that far apart is so I could get the forklift out with about 200 mils out each side. Oh, about yeah, look, it'd be 200 probably out each side. So, of course, over the years you put junk under your bench and it sticks out. So I had to have a bit quick tidy up there, and I could actually get the forklift up through there and drag the compressor out into the doorway where I could work on it and, you know, lift things around a little bit easier. So, so I got the compressor all off again, and they were chatting about the model and how long I'd had it and all that. And yeah, great company to deal with, like, really good. And anyway, the phone rings and it's a fella from there, and he said, "Oh, Lance, I've been talking to the service department, and to save sending a new compressor and mucking around, if we've decided if you undo those delivery valves or those unloader valves on top of the heads, you can put 3/4 BSP tapered blanking nipples in there." So I said, "Oh, okay." So it was too late then. No, I didn't have time to get into town and bugger around then. So yeah, next day I went into Hydrolink in town and I got some plugs, some blanking plugs, and put them on the compressor. And yeah, the other thing, what it did was once it got a bit of back pressure, those unloader valves, it was just like a little fork, and it popped down and it opened on the inlet near the air cleaner, it opened up the reed valve a little bit. And that was just so the compressor, with the petrol motor and that, it could start. Then once it, I don't know how it worked out when to let them release and let it start pumping again. But so all it did was that. So by taking them out, I could put the plugs in and get the compressor going. So after all that bloody rooting around getting the belt lined up, I had to put the compressor on again. So anyway, this next time I thought, well, I'm going to try and line it up without the belts, because the belts were putting tension on it and made it difficult the first time. So I buggered around with that and got it on, got the belts fed on by hand, and it's quite firm, and I'm sure it's okay. And I thought, right, now's my chance to put the compressor outside. I don't have time to do a slab, but it's got like nice rubber feet on it. Then it's got a bit of channel for the forklift, and then the compressor. So the compressor, the bottom of the tank's probably 200 or 300 millimetres, 8 or 10 inches off the ground. So good 6 inches anyway. And so I thought, well, right, what I'm going to do is there's a little hump there. I'm going to set it on the hump outside. I cut a hole in the wall so I can feed the 3-phase electricity into the wall here. And so the compressor can be outside, so it's not so noisy in here, yet I can still turn it on and off in here as I need to. And I haven't plumbed it up to the shed yet, but I use that blue line poly pipe, and look, that blue line poly pipe's been in the shed here since about 2000. So it's 25 years and it still goes like a beauty. So all I need to do now is plumb it to the compressor. But when I turned I had the switch off on the compressor and I turned the power on out here, and you know your little red knob on top of your pressure switch, I pulled that up and I got the compressor running, and it's supposed to stop at 125 psi, which I don't know, it's too much pressure. I don't need that much. Like if I had 100 pound, that's pretty well good for anything I do. But anyway, it was factory set at 125, so I started the compressor up and I just sat there, had the gauge, and I'm watching the gauge, and it got up to 110, 20, 125, 127, 129. I shut it down. I thought, up this isn't good. And so I drained some air out. Oh, and I flicked the switch. After I switched it off, I flicked it on again, and it didn't want to start because it hadn't reached the low pressure. So I've got a tap, so I left the air out and let it build up again and let it get to 130. And no, that's no good. So let the air out again and went up and let it get to 135. And yeah, I thought, nope, we're not doing that. And yeah, I got to 135, 137 or something. It just didn't shut down. So I believe now that the compressor blew up because the pressure switch didn't shut down. And because it was really working hard, rattling when I heard that funny noise when it blew up. And so what I think has happened is that pressure switch, the compressor was running because I was using it, and I stopped using it. As I stopped using it, the pressure built and built and built. And it didn't run all the time with the needle scaler. You know, it cycled like you'd expect. You know, I had a rest, then it'd start up again. But I'm pretty confident now that the compressor blew up because of the pressure switch not stopping, and it probably got to 150, 170 pound or whatever it was. And yeah, it just kept going until she blew apart. And it was catastrophic. Like when we have our little video walk, I'll show you the pieces of the compressor, and you'll be blown away. You just won't believe it. Such destruction. So the normal little pressure switch, you can see them on eBay everywhere, but I didn't buy one of them. Pardon me. The proper one out of Able Sales, it's 3-phase, 16 amp, made for the job, $230 though. So I thought that was bloody dear. When you can buy the other ones around for, you know, $50. But anyway, I thought, no, I'm not going to dick around. It's got the proper JIC fitting in the bottom of it and all that. So, so yeah, that was Friday. By the time we got that sorted out and realised that I had the compressor out there running, doing the tests, by the time I realised that was what the problem was, it was Friday afternoon and we missed the airbag, so I still don't have a compressor running. But I do have a little compressor up at the house, and so I went and got the forklift and got that and brought it down here, and it works its arse off, eh? I can needle scale. The needle scaler uses very little air. Your little right angle die grinders that I use for just tidying little bits of rust and just knick-knacky little fiddly bits, it won't shut down on them, it just runs constantly. So hopefully today at some stage, I ask them to airbag the pressure switch up for me. So hopefully that'll happen, and then once I know that's shutting down when it should and it's all that, I'll plumb it back into the main system here and we'll be off and racing. And then I'm going to put a bit of, like the poly pipe I use coming into the shed, I'll have it so later on I can just lift it up with the forklift, prop it up, and or just undo the fitting and undo the plug, you know, the power lead. I'm running a 32 amp 3-phase power lead to it. It's just what I had on the wall, so I adapted the compressor from a 20 amp to 32, I think it is. So anyway, so that was a bit of excitement for the week. The little tractor, I thought, well, no one's looked in there for ages, and the bloke I bought it off, I've been telling the story, I was telling Jude, I remember the day I bought it, and they wanted $2,300 for it. And I went out and had a look, and the front tyres were buggered, and I thought, oh, that's bloody good money. But it was a sound tractor, you know, it was straight, the panels were good, the back tyres looked okay, but since I've had it, they're not okay. So anyway, I went out and had a look at it, and I said to the fella, it had no generator on it, that was missing inside on the bench, and I couldn't have the generator. And the little kerosene tank, or little petrol tank, because it's petrol kero, that wasn't on the tractor, but it was inside. And I said to the fella, I said, oh, would you accept $2,000 for it? And no, I bloody wouldn't. And he just stepped up me. Yeah, I asked 2,300 because I wanted 2,300, and if I wanted 2,000, I would have bloody well asked for it. And he fired right up. And I thought, oh well, fair enough. And I don't know, for some reason I didn't tell him to shove it up his jumper and walk away. But I said, all right, well, I'll give you your 2,300, but I want that bloody tank over there. The petrol kero tank. Oh, well, I'll throw that in, he says, like as if he was doing me a favour. And because he still run a couple, or at least one of those, I think he might have had a couple running for his little small crops operation. And I thought, well, not to worry. So I could just put a battery in it and start it and all that was fine. And so it's always been a good little runner. So I got it home years ago and I did the carby up on it. Yeah, that's been done ages now. But I could always just pop a battery in, even with the stale fuel in it, it had no fuel in it because it was too lousy to leave any in there. The fuel I put in 4 or 5 years ago, it's stale, it's got that smell about it. It still runs nicely on that. So anyway, I popped the tappet cover off and I've done a valve reset on it. I've fixed that manifold up that looks like chook shit welds. And but I've started on it, and the steering box was pouring oil out. So I've ordered some seals in town for that. I'm waiting on that. I haven't got them. Wade hasn't rung up and told me they're available yet. But to get to that, I've got the front axle out, and I've got it all needle scaled. And one thing about these farm hauls, compared with the Fergie, to get the front axle out, you just undo the axle support on the back of the bell housing, on the front end of the bell housing, slide that pin out and you can pull it out and drop your axle out. It's bloody easy, very easy. So anyway, so the front axle's out and I've needle scaled all that and tidied it up. It still needs a bit more yet, but I'm waiting until the big compressor gets going. I do have a couple of little brackets and a couple of, the choke rods and all that I've got off that I'm waiting on the sandblaster to be back in action to tidy that up. The panels are quite nice, they're quite straight, a little bit of rust here and there, but no holes. It seems to be just surface rust. So once that's going again, we'll be off and racing. But I was talking to my mate John Dudley yesterday, and he said, what did you find with that tractor when it had a funny noise in reverse? And I thought, shit, I'd forgotten all about that. And once you drove it, they're always noisy gearboxes, those things. They're straight cut gears and always noisy. So I thought, oh, geez, I'd forgotten about that. So that was yesterday's exercise. Pull the top off the gearbox and look, it absolutely looks brand new inside. It's great. And I pulled the PDO box off the back because the PDO seal was leaking a bit and the belt drive was leaking. So I've gone through the belt drive box and I've replaced the seal there. Just give it a wash. I didn't have to do bearings. The PDO housing at the back I've just cleaned up. It's ready to go on now. I ran out of time yesterday. And yeah, look, the crown wheel and pinion looks brand new. I've got a little bit of cleaning to do in that back compartment, but I can remember now and then it just got this clunk or a bit of a knock in reverse only. So today sometime, I've put the gear stick top back on, the gear cover with the gear stick and all that, got the selectors lined up and banged that back on. Once I get the PDO on and the PDO drive, the belt drive on, I think today I'll start. I do have gasket sets and seals for the final drive, so I think I'll just pop the pans off them and have a look. Yeah, and John Dudley, he was saying that his daughter has one and it has the same noise in it. So, so I'm yet to find that noise and see what it was. But I'd forgotten all about it, and I was expecting to find like a. Sometimes in a bearing the cage buggers up and the bearings sort of catch up and clunk and away they go again. But turning the final drives by hand and all, it seems nice. So yeah, today It seems on the Farmall 100s, they have like an oil pan, like a sump under the bottom of the final drives, but it doesn't have a drain plug in it. So there'll be a bung there for oil level, I imagine. I haven't looked that hard yet, but yeah, John Dudley, my mate, he's a Farmall nut, and he's got, counting all the bits and pieces, he's probably got 50 or 60 tractors around his countryside down in Howard there, and good mate of mine, and I ring him up when I want to know something Farmall. But I've put an order into the States, into Steiner. Pardon me. Yeah, I put an order into Steiner, and the seat was buggered on this, and these were available with just a steel pan or a cushion. This one had the cushion. You can see the lip around the seat where it was. So what we're going to do there, I've ordered. You could order a seat that had like a silvery open mesh sort of thing on it, which is like a nylon mesh, or you could order a seat with vinyl that had red bottom, white back, or something like that on it. But they were vinyl, but I went for the silvery one with the robust, like the heavier material on it. And like my mate JD said, he said, just when you hop off it anywhere, just flick the seat back if you're at a show, because they do absorb moisture. So under the toolbox, under the seat, there's a little toolbox. I ordered a new one of them, which I've had for ages. The stuff I already have for it was the final drive gasket sets, because I could see the axle seals leaking when I bought it. I have a complete new wiring harness for an alternator. I'm going to put an alternator on it. I didn't have the generator. Old mate wouldn't give me the generator. So Steiner brought out an alternator kit. So back years ago, I bought the alternator, the single wire alternator kit for it. So it'll end up with an alternator. I know it's not as it should be, but I don't care. I haven't got any headlights or the brackets for it yet, but I'll probably end up doing that down the track. But so far, the order from Steiner was $1,200, and 225 or 30 of that was freight. That's American dollars freight, so that's like 350, 375, something like that. But I've ordered like the oil gauge and the temp gauge, which I didn't have, which were buggered. I've put a new oil filter in it now, which I had. I've ordered the seat. I can't think of what. Fuel cap. I got the tank. I got the petrol tank off old mate, but the cap was missing. So I've just ordered a heap of little knick-knacky things for it that, like a new gear knob. The gear knob was worn through, sort of thing, so I've ordered one of those. I've been into Dean's twice this week. One time was to get the exhaust manifold gasket and the tappet cover gasket. And then yesterday it was a PDO box gasket and the PDO seal and the belt drive seal. Of all the seals I had there, I didn't have that. So, I mean, but yeah, Wade from Bundy Bearings and Industrial Supplies, he has the steering box seals. There's a lower one and an upper one, which I haven't heard from him yet. The fan belt he's ordering for me, and we're going to go with a standard alternator belt, because on the thing it says if you fit the alternator kit that Steiner supplies, it still has a standard belt, so that's something decent too. So that's been about my week, apart from club stuff. I've been really busy doing club stuff. Look, all the little loose ends are coming together. I mentioned Rotary last week, and Alan, it's the club secretary, he's been looking after Rotary, and we've been getting very frustrated that they've just been stonewalling us. And anyway, Chris rings up from Rotary yesterday and says, "Oh, Alan, I've been meaning to touch base with you about your rally." And Alan says, "Well, we got food vans and all coming in now. It's been 3 months since email sort of thing, and we're not getting any answers. And it was always, we're going to take it to a meeting, and we never heard back." And he said, "Oh, no, we're keen to be on board." He said, "We're having trouble at the moment in Bundaberg, in the branch that they're in. There's only 15 members, and they have trouble getting the crew together." And Alan says, "Well, I suppose you can have it if you want it, because it's a fundraiser for them, which is what we're all about, and we get a bit of a kickback to the club as well out of what they sell." And so So anyway, Alan gave him the right of way. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I suppose." And he said, "Well, I gave them right of way." He said, "They want to know what we want them to make, and they can do burgers and hot chips and things like that, and we get a bit of kickback out of it." So Rotary are back on board. He said, "Yeah, good chat, because they sort of knew each other, these blokes, Alan and Chris, and had a chat." And Alan says, "Well, he said, you're bloody lucky." He said, because over the weekend, Alan and myself had a discussion about Rotary, and I said, "Nah, they can get stuffed." Get stuffed if they can't ring us, can't email us, can't do anything like that. They can get rooted. We'll just get an extra food van in. So I've got an extra food van coming, and Alan said to me, he says, "You want me to give them another ring, just one more ring and see?" And I said, "Yeah, all right." Then I thought about it, and yesterday morning I said to him, "Don't bother ringing them." I said, "They can get stuffed. We've been dancing around trying to get our thing organised, and just no answers, no nothing. So they can get stuffed." And Alan says, he rang me up and he said, "You won't believe this." He says, "They rang me up." And he said, "I'll give them right away because it's a community thing." And I said, "All right then." So he has as much say as I do. I'm the rally coordinator, but yeah, he does an awful lot to help. So I said, "Well, if that's what you want, that's what we're doing." So Rotary are back on board. They have an agricultural show, Agro Trend, in town here that the Rotary runs, and they've been having real trouble making money there. I don't know why. They have another lady that runs it for them, and between you, me and the gatepost, I think that's the problem. She takes a cut of everything out, and she arranges, sponsorships and the tractor places to come and things like that. But she calls herself an event organiser. But back years and years ago, when I was having a break from the club, our club had a rally in 2018, and they had her organising it. And the club lost money, went backwards, and her fee was $1,000. And I don't know who in the club thought it was bloody smart to have someone pay $1,000 for that. And anyway, the club lost money, and the club was pretty pissed off about it. So she donated the money back after a kick up, apparently. So Rotary still got this lady running the show. So by the time she gets paid, then last year there was a steam engine. And Steve Hood, he's a friend, but they paid him $4,000 to bring his steam traction engine there. Then had to look after all his accommodation and all that, which was $5,000. So they paid $5,000 for one exhibit. They pay our club $1,000 to turn up and put on a good show, and we do. We really put an effort into it. But anyway, there's ways of I'm hoping I'm hoping to make money at our rally. Format Machinery, they're the local Kubota dealer. Just last night, they want to be on board with it. They're keen as mustard. Nathan that owns the business, Nathan Naddard, they're younger families, and like Dean that bought my business off me, and Nathan and all them, they're in their 30s, between 30 and 40 probably. They're in that era where they're building businesses and they're keen, and they got young minds, and Dean's helping out an awful lot with his old man picking up the chairs and tables and bits and pieces for us. And Nathan from Kubota, he's going to supply a tractor to put at the back of the tractor pull sled to pull it back, so ready for the next pull. And he's offered us the tilt tray for Friday, Saturday and Monday, so we can move a bit of club gear around if we need to, which is great. We'll probably get the master built loader in with it. So look, it's all coming together. It's just never-ending work though. I'm in the shed here, and I'm trying to get this tractor done for our rally now. I gave myself this job, and I thought it was just to tidy up, a clean up, and I'll get the flaky paint off it and all that, and I'll just blow some paint on. But then I'd forgot about the noise in reverse, and then I decided to do the tappets, and the bloody exhaust flange, it was all buggered, and so I had to make that. And so, you know how it is, if you blokes have done tractors up, you understand. And so it's become a huge job, and that's fine. I'm just trying to, I'm up at 6 and 6:30, I'm up at the shed here by 7 most mornings, working on that, but my phone just rings with this rally, and I'd lose 2 or 3 hours a day. Like yesterday I was back up the front there mid-morning to send some emails because people wanted more information, and the club's going to Mount Larkham show this weekend, so they wanted our insurance currency certificate, so Alan ended up looking after that for me. Yes, it's just busy. The rally's taken up a lot of time, and then old Muggins here decides to root around with the farm all. So anyway, it was one of those things. I just thought I'd start it and fiddle along with it, and then it become bigger and bigger and bigger. Now she's a full-blown job, and I'm enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying doing it, but I'm not doing anything else. No, that's it. I want to get my compressor going. I just want to put every day into that. I've worked all day Saturday on it. Sunday morning, I had the grandkids here Sunday morning, so yeah, we're out lighting fires and buggering around there. But yeah, we're working on it. I've done an awful lot in a week. It's only just been a week, I think. Might be 1 week, 1 day, something like that. But look, I'll go handheld shortly, and we'll take you for a walk around, and yeah, we'll show you what we've been up to. I'll show you the broken bits of the compressor, and yeah, we'll go for a bit of a tour, eh? All right, I'll leave you here for this little bit. Thanks for dropping by. Like, subscribe, comment. Comments help a hell of a lot. YouTube thinks people actually want to have a look at something, so we'll see. All right, thanks, eh? Have a good week, and we'll catch up with you a bit later, eh? Okay, we'll go for a little walk through here. Now that's where the compressor used to be, over in the corner there, and when I come around, yeah, I'd cleaned that up, and that's where I got the forklift through, and boy am I glad that I left that there to do that. But when you look at the ground here, I'll try and stay out of the thing. That's 2 of the cylinders, still with the connecting pipe hooked up, and like she was major. I've got bits of casting on the floor there to clean up. And over the back here, when it blew up, I had oil everywhere. So once I get the compressor sorted out outside there, we'll be right. I've brought this grinder back up there now, so that's a good thing. But yeah, the lead for the compressor comes through the hole in the wall, and it'll go onto that power point there, so I can turn it on and off as I need to. But that took up quite a bit of my week. Now, if we come through here, you can always tell the bench when there's a job on. Shit everywhere, but that's how I like to roll. Now, this is the farm all. You can see I've needle scaled, I've tidied up, I've got corks down the spark plug holes, and needle scaled all the side there, all down through here. If I come around, that black stuff is CRC rust converter, and the whole lot will probably have a little bit of that on it by the time I'm done. Most of it's needle scaled down there. That final drive's all needle scaled. Now, the process is needle scale it away, and you can see all the junk on the floor. Most evenings I pressure clean the floor out so I have a fresh start the next day. The final drive there, I'll pop that apart today and look for whatever was making that noise. The gear stick is back on. That's the old seat, so that's getting replaced. The guards are quite heavy on this old girl. Yeah, they're just a thick material. I took one off, and the left-hand one's there with the battery boxes and all that, and to be sandblasted when I have a go and sandblaster. The dip in there, which you can't see because I didn't bring a light with me, is going good. I have it slinging on the hoist to work on, and they're 1 ton slings, so I've got 1 at the front and 2 at the back. Now I've got the fuel tank here, the front axle over here where I've been needle scaling and tidying it up, but that's coming up nice. they're the front wheels with the new tyres. And an interesting thing, these fellas here, they were all the scufflers and bits and pieces on it, but there's many bits missing, so I've discarded them for the moment. I might get back to them some other time, but not now. And when we look down here, this is the body of the compressor. Now, there's 3 conrods here, 1, 2, 3, and I thought, how the hell do they get them on? Because, you know, the crank's got a bend in it there. And what happens is they're small enough that they come over this section here and go on, and then there's a bloody circlip and a washer holds them on. Probably not how I would have chose to do it. And then they've got like a, you know, oil flinger to splash all the oil up. But that's what's left of the compressor. Yeah, that's not the best. But if we come for a walk, it's overcast today, which isn't what we normally have here. And you can see where I've slashed the paddock a different colour. And for the moment, the compressor is sitting out here. It's nice and high on those rubber feet and everything. So I will tidy that up yet. Even if I just put a couple of sleepers under it to lift it up a bit. But yeah, look at that. It's still, the gauge is still holding on 110 psi. So there's no leaks there, eh? Which is good. But yeah, anyway, there's the new compressor. Yeah, they're the plugs I put in. And yeah, we're just waiting on that little pressure switch there. So there you go. Now you know as much as I do.